Hello everyone and welcome to a kinda sorta tutorial. I just had something I wanted to discuss a little bit and basically just show how I've been doing something in preparation for 1.13. So if you're involved in the modding community, you may have heard about 1.13 and how metadata is more or less being removed from items. But the good thing about that is that they're increasing the item ID limit to basically the highest number they can. 2 to the 31st power, I believe, or about 2 billion. So using metadata for items is no longer necessary. We've got plenty of IDs to work with. Same goes with block IDs. We've got 2 billion of them now. No reason to compress them into metadata blocks. So anyway, one thing I did in the past, and I don't know if I have any example of it left anymore. Sorry about this stuff down here. I wish I could get rid of the mouse clicks, but I kind of want to show in keyboard shortcuts and stuff. Let me know what you think of that. I think it'll be nice because I have a bad habit of not explaining keyboard shortcuts. Yeah, let me just see if there's like anything intact here. I've probably deleted a lot of the stuff. I'm working on a rewrite of gems, so yeah. Does that show anything? No, not really. You'll just have to take my word for it. I was using metadata very heavily for a lot of things. Okay, so the only problem now is that if we have to register an item for each individual variant, that could be a lot of items in some cases. While the item IDs may not be an issue, that could be a lot of code that you have to type out. So I do have a way here that makes it quite a bit easier to manage. And I did not try writing this test mod ahead of time, so I'm just going to be flying by the seat of my pants, as they say. I think that's how the expression goes. So this may explode in my face, but hopefully not. So I've got the basic test mod laid out already. It's all just standard stuff. One unique thing that you may not have seen in my previous tutorials is I'm actually registering this class on the event bus. And we'll get back to that in a moment. That's due to a change that became necessary in 1.12. But first, I'm going to go ahead and create a mod items class. I could do it all in here, but I'll be good and do it the right way. So we got a mod items class. Let's go ahead and make a method. I guess in this case it could be a static method. Just call it register items, and this is going to take registry event. Is that it? I normally don't have to do this manually, so yeah. Registry event.register. Yeah, there we go. Registry event.register of type item. Call that event. Import item. And this is where we register our items now. So let's go back to test mod for now, and we actually need to catch that event. So we need to do a subscribe event, and let's call it what? On register items, I guess. That'll work. And same thing as before, registry event.register of type item. Do that import. And we're just going to pass that to mod items. Alright, so now let's get on to what I wanted to discuss. So what I have been doing is actually creating enums for collections of similar items. Now it's pretty common to have items that don't really have any special properties. They just kind of exist because they're needed for crafting recipes or something like that. And some mods can have a lot of them, so why not pack those into an enum? So let's go ahead and do that. In IntelliJ, It's you still select Java class, you just press down twice to get to enum, and let's call this I don't know, just call it enum item. You'd probably want to name it after whatever it's representing in particular. So going back to that gems rewrite, I've got a new version of the gem. This replaces enum gem. So same basic concept. It's kind of storing some items and returning them on demand. Yeah, let's just go ahead and write this. So what I'm going to do with this enum is I'm going to go ahead and implement iString serializable. This is often used for block states in particular, but I like to use this just because it's kind of going in the same direction of how it's used. So iString serializable has one method, getName, and in this we're going to return name.toLowercase and pass that locale.root to make sure that no funkiness happens on different locales. There are some cases where different locales will have different lowercase letters. It's kind of rare. I think Turkish is one example where things can go very weird with the letter I. So make sure you have that locale.root in your toLowercase method calls. So let's go ahead and add something to our enum, the values of the items we want. I don't know, let's just do some colors, red, green, blue, doesn't really matter, just whatever your items are called. So that'll be fine. You can, of course, add a constructor to pass in whatever other data you may need. I don't really need anything in this case. I will go ahead and create a private... let's go ahead and make it a final and initialize that in a constructor. So just going to store a standard vanilla item. That can be whatever item class you need. So add a constructor, no parameters, and let's just assign our item a new item. And that's all we do there. So what I'm going to do now is add a method to get that item. So get item, return this.item. And we could also say have a little method here to return an item stack just as a convenience. So get stack, return new item stack of this.item, and since that's producing a new item stack each time, there will be no need to copy it. And yeah, I do have a habit of hitting Control-S even though IntelliJ saves automatically. It's a hard habit to break. Okay, so I think that's all we really need here. This is about as basic as it gets. So let's go ahead and go over to mod items and initialize our items. So let's just do a standard for each loop. We're going to say for each enum item, and just call it E, in enum item.values, we are going to do event.getRegistry.register e.getItem. And that's how we register our items. Pretty simple. There's actually a couple other things we need to do, and I think that has to be done before calling register. I think it does. Okay. So let's go ahead and pull out that e.getItem into a local variable and call the two methods that we need to call. And let me go ahead and create a string for its name. So we do still need to create a name for the item, And I'm going to be using this for both the registry name and the translation key, or unlocalized name as it was called in earlier versions. So in this case, I think I'll go with item underscore and then e.getName. So in this case, it'll be item underscore red, item underscore green, etc. Now let's go ahead and call item dot, and this would be set unlocalized names in older mappings. In the latest, in newer mappings, like in the past week or so, they changed it to set translation key. And we're going to pass that name. And we're going to also say item.setRegistryName. And I think we can just also pass that name. I don't know if that gets the domain automatically. Let me double check that. Okay, I may actually need to create a resource location out of that. Yeah, that does take a resource location. What am I thinking? Why is that? Oh, yeah, it has an override for name. Right. So let's just go ahead and create that here. New resource location. I didn't store my mod ID in a variable, so I'll just hardcode it. Do not hardcode your mod ID. Store it in a public static final field or something. And the name. That should be everything we need for that. Okay, so let's go ahead and try running this. Let me actually just double check to make sure I got that added. Okay. And hopefully everything else works. It's been a while since I've launched anything in my development environment because of all the crazy stuff I've been doing. And by the way, this setup is actually very different from my previous tutorial. I completely forgot to mention that. I've changed things to a Gradle multi-project setup. I'll probably do a tutorial on that eventually after I'm sure I know what I'm doing. But I will say this, it is probably not for beginners. It is quite a bit more complicated to set up. Okay, yeah, go figure. Let me just remove that for now. I'll sort that problem out later. Okay, finally got Minecraft loaded. Okay, and let's see if our test mod has loaded. It has, and we have 3 items. And I actually messed up with the translation key there. But you can see that this is indeed working. Let's go ahead and turn on advanced tooltips so we can see the registry name, test mod, item red, item green, item blue. And those are all different items. You can see they have different item IDs. And of course, they're not even trying to register models. That's something you would have to deal with elsewhere. I'm not worried about that in this case. Let's go ahead and fix that translation key. Let me see. Let's just change the name variable to a resource location and use that. New resource location, mod ID, and then that. And in this case, we'll need to call toString on that, but that'll get the results I want. So before testing that, let's go ahead and try one more little thing. So like I said, you don't need to use the base item class. You could extend an item class, so might as well go ahead and show that. So let's just create a class called item. It's an internal class, so that's fine. Make it extend the base item class. And we could, I don't know, have it store the enum. So that'll need a constructor. That can be a private one. Enum item type. This dot type is assign a value of type. And then you could do whatever else you wanted with the item. I don't think I really need to. And just so it's clear, I'm going to go ahead and change that to enum item dot item. Alright, just like that. And just pass in the enum, which would be this, in the enum constructor. And that's it. Item has a reference to the enum if you need it. So let's go ahead and try launching that once more. So that's all there is to it, really. You have an enum for storing the different values of the item. You have the enum has a method to get the item, to get a stack of the item. You don't need to store references to these items anywhere else. They're just all in the enum. So if you need the item, you just do enum item.read.get item, for example. And let's go ahead and check that translation key, make sure it got updated. And it did indeed. That is correct. Item.modid.itemname.name. Well, in some cases you may prefer to switch out the colon for a dot, which is something I'm trying to transition towards, so didn't quite do that right. If you did want to, I don't know, one way you could do it is name.get namespace plus dot plus name.get path. And if you're using older mappings, that would be get resource domain instead of get namespace, and instead of get path, it would be get resource path. Alright, so that's really all there is to show. Well, actually, I could go ahead and extract a method here so that we're registering our items in a slightly smarter way. Let's see. Register item event, and no, that's not quite how I want to do it. No? Okay. I'll just write it by hand. So we can make that private, static void, register item. This will be for registering individual items. And we could say item and resource location name. And we should be able to just copy that. Oh, I do need the registry event thing, don't I? Okay, like that, and then we can just replace this with a call to that method, so we don't have to write out the same code for every different type of item we want to register. And that is the wrong one. Probably should give these methods slightly different names so that they don't, well, more different names so they don't get confused. And just like that. And I'll go ahead and run that once more just to make sure that code is valid. Okay, looks like we're all good. So again, we've just got a very simple mod class. It's catching the registering items event and passing that to our mod items class. Our mod items is iterating over the enum and getting the item for that enum, creating the name for it, and then passing our register item method to set up the item and register it in the registry. And then our enum item class is just an enum. Can optionally have a special item class for it, but you don't have to. So thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful to someone, and I'll see you in the next video.